creative people. Welcome back to another episode of Busy Beader. If you don't know me already, my name is Caitlin, and here on Busy Beader, we create fun, simple, easy crafts that will unlock your creativity in just a short amount of time. And today we are back at it again with a very fun project. We're going to be using several different components to make this piece, but the piece is actually very simple. We are going to be making initial necklaces. We're going to be using a thingamajig to craft the letters, and then we're going to be using a hammer to give them a nice beautiful finish on them, and then of course attaching them to a chain so we can wear them as a necklace. So I am super excited to jump into this project today. First, I need to tell you about my sponsor, Fire Mountain Gems and Beads. They are a crafting supply company, and they have anything that your heart could desire in the crafting world. All the things that you see in my videos come from them. And if you take a peruse on their website, the link is just down below, they can be your supplier too. And you can get your thingamajig, your wire, your hammer, all the things that you need to create today's craft. And if you are a first-time customer with Fire Mountain Gems, you can use this discount code here. When you apply that at checkout, you will get $5 off your purchase. This is a one-time use only code, and it is for new customers. And that's just a way of saying thank you for being a part of our crafting community channel here on Busy Beader and for taking a look at my sponsor. So be sure to check that out. And as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. When you do, I love getting to read all your comments. I try and reply back to everybody. You can leave me questions. You can tell me what you think of projects, or if you decided to make one your own. I love getting to hear from you guys. But I can hardly contain my excitement anymore, so let's jump into today's craft together. Step 1. All right, first thing we have to do is gather our supplies and materials. We need quite a few things today, even though the project is pretty simple. First, we're going to start with a thingamajig. We've used these before on Busy Beader, but today we're going to be using it a little differently. So you're going to get your thingamajig, then you're going to need a set of clippers and a set of pliers. If you have wire working pliers, you can grab those, but today, since we're going to give the metal texture after we shape it, doesn't really matter if you mar the metal. But if you decide you don't want to give your metal texture after we shape it, then I would definitely recommend grabbing some pliers like this that have the rubber. That way you don't mar the metal. Anyway, you're also going to need a hammer. And we're going to need both ends. We're going to flatten it out, and then we're going to give it texture, make it look shiny. Then you're going to need I recommend having a block to work on. Otherwise, you can see what it did to the top of the block here. You don't want it to do that to your table. So you're going to need a little block here. We're also going to need some chain. I chose my gold Figaro since it is my favorite, but you can choose whatever chain you like. Then you're also going to need a clasp and jump rings, and then of course our wire. This is 20 gauge gold wire that we're working with today. All right, after you've gathered our menagerie of supplies and tools, meet me back here and we'll get started. Step 2. We're making a necklace that has initials on it, so letters. A couple friends of mine are getting married, and so I'm going to do a little necklace that has an M and a D on it for my friend who's getting married. So what you're going to need to do is map out your letters. So I did that on a whiteboard here. What I did is I drew my letter, and then I drew where my points would be on my thingamajig, and then kind of acted how the wire would go around them. And this just gives me a decent idea. So if you are lucky enough to be doing an M or a D for this project, then you're set. I already did the work for you, but everybody else, you might have to do a little bit of work, and you can decide how you want the wire to be shaped. You know, if your letter is an A like this, then you're probably going to have a larger one here, peg on the thingamajig, a larger one here, and then a smaller one here, and then you would take the wire and you would do something kind of like, probably go around, up and around like this. You go around and over, and then you would wrap the wire around itself right there. Something in that nature. So map out your letter, figure out what it's gonna look like, and then once you figure out where your pegs are gonna be, go ahead and put them on your thingamajig. And I'm doing 2 letters right next to each other, but you could do 1 letter, you could make a whole word if you wanted to, but map out your letters. All right, once you've done all that, it's time to start. So you are going to get some wire, and I'm going to pull more of this wire than I need because you know me, I'm a little overly cautious here. So we are going to clip that wire. We're going to start right here. We are going to work the wire around the thingamajig. So I'm just gonna put my hand down on this wire, and we're gonna make our first loop. Now, when you make a loop, if you see, the bottom of it is kind of higher than the top part. So as we go around, I am going to push that wire down to the bottom with my pliers, like that. And then I will give it another good pull. That way, my little loop is nice and flat and even, like that. So that is our first. Now we are going to take this wire and we're going to come down, and I'm going to make sure to pull so that the wire does not have a weird bend in it here. And we are going to go around this peg and up. And now I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to do what I did before, where I take the wire and I push it down all the way down to the bottom, and then I'm going to pull on it again. And I have another trick that we're going to use once we're done, but you want to make these loops as tight and as even as possible. Okay, now that we are done with the M, it's time to move on to the D. So we are going to come over this direction, and I'm actually going to loop it up. So we're going to do the same thing here though, but we are going to loop around this one right here. And then we're actually going to take this wire down around this bigger peg and around this wire here. All right, now that I have all my loops made from my thingamajig, I'm gonna do one last push to get all these where I want before I take it off of the thingamajig. Okay, now we are going to release it from its wire prison. Still looks a little messy. Trust me, it'll look better, but we're done with the thingamajig, so I'm just gonna set this to the side. First thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this wire for the end of the D, and we are going to put it behind here, and I'm just going to, oop, there we go. Just wanna get it wrapped. Step 3. All right, now that we have it off of our thingamajig, now is the time to mess with it and get the shape exactly how you like. So you can use, since we're going to flatten and then give the wire texture, you can just use your pliers to move the wires around, to change the shape in certain areas if you're wanting, really just to make it look how you're wanting it to look. So our next step is going to be with the block and the hammer. So I'm going to move this block here into the center. So this is how I flatten the metal. Okay, and as you flatten it, you can see that it kind of starts to curve a little bit. So you just want to kind of uncurve it as you go. And now what we're going to do is we are going to put little dents in the middle that make it look shiny, almost like it has gemstones in it. So, and as you noticed, I kept my fingers off of the block. So I was holding the wire over here. So be very careful not to hammer your little fingers. But now we used this edge for flattening, and now we're going to use this round edge to give it texture. So you are just going to take that round edge and hit all over it, and make sure to change the angle. Don't just go straight up and down, also go side to side and move all the way around it. And I will show you what that's like. And kind of like when you flattened it, it does get curvy as you hit it. So you just have to go through and straighten everything back out. But you see how that gives it that nice shimmer to it when you use the round end of the hammer. So, and you can just maneuver the wire. And this is going to be your chance to do any last minute alterations to it that you're wanting to do before we add it to a chain and make it into a necklace. Step 4. Once you have that all the way that you would like it, it looks so good, you can remove your hammer and your block. And now it is time to clip. So we are going to go onto the back side here, and we're going to find this area right here where we wrapped around to finish off the wire and the D. and we are going to clip that right there, being careful not to clip the other part of the wire that has the D. And then over here, we are going to do the same thing. We're going to come around onto the back, and we are going to very carefully clip this wire right where it ends there. And there we go. And since we clipped those where they were kind of already tucked, you shouldn't need to have any, shouldn't need to tuck them anywhere or get rid of any sharp edges because they should be all secure. But if you do have a sharp edge, go ahead and just take your pliers and you can maneuver those into a spot where they're safe and they won't scratch anybody. Excellent. Now that we have our little charm, it's time to pull out our chain. So I am going to make this a 16-inch necklace, but you can choose whatever length you like. But I'm just going to go ahead and measure out 16 inches worth of chain here. And that's going to be right about there. And I'm going to clip that chain. Very good. Now we are going to find the midpoint on our chain. So match up your ends and find that midpoint. And we are going to cut at that midpoint so that our chain is actually 2 chains. And we're going to start with these smaller jump rings here. And we are going to open one of these guys up. And we are going to thread this loop of the M through the starting loop. And then we're going to thread one end of our chain through as well. And then we're going to close. And then we're going to grab our other jump ring and we are going to open it up. And this is actually just going to go through the main part of the D here because of the way that the letter is shaped. But if you used a different letter, I recommend using the starting or the ending loops. But we're going to thread that through right there. And then we're going to thread it through the end of our other chain and we're going to close. And now we need to attach our clasp. So we're going to grab this bigger jump ring here and we're going to open it up. We're going to slide our clasp through and then we're going to slide it through our chain. Then we are going to open up our other jump ring and we are going to slide it through the other end of our chain here. And with that, you have a fun and beautiful initial necklace. You could also take the same concept and do a keychain or a bracelet, whatever really suits your fancy there. And just like that, you have a beautiful initial necklace. I put it on here to model for you, but this necklace actually isn't for me. This is for my friend who's getting married. And I already gave her a little sneak peek of it and she was so excited. She thought it was adorable, but that is what the little initials look like when they are on. And I hope that you had a great time getting to make this with me today. If you did, then please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That way you can join our growing community. And don't forget to check out my sponsor, Fire Mountain Gems and Beads. And if you're a new customer, hit up that discount code and get $5 off your purchase. I hope that you have a fabulous week, and I will see you in the next one.